Hi, so today I'm gonna implement a Sudoku game, and let's just get started. Let me share my screen. It's this one, and here we go. So Sudoku, we all know this game. Let's get something on the screen. Construct the manager, just like we saw last time, and then we'll just say to get this up and running. There you go. Okay, so we need some kind of state. So we'll just call it Sudoku, and there's going to be a board of numbers. So let's just make a function that will display that. So we take the state and we return a UI for this thing. So I guess we need to draw. Well, the simplest thing is just to start with an even grid, and let's go for just traverse each part of the array and then construct a. I guess we should do a fixed size cell at first. So one way, okay, so there is a center in thing. So let's do it like this. So let's say we have the number, convert that to a text, and then we center that in a box of a given size. So let's try this at first. So that should, oh, we don't have a board. I have to call it obviously. So let's make a state.
Pardon me, Google says that spelling is Sudoku instead.
So I have to swap the two letters. Yeah, you're right. It's like this. Thanks. All right. So it's 9 by 9. So let's generate a board. And the numbers of from 1 to 9, like that. Then we have a board, and let's just draw that thing. Draw Sudoku. Okay, so now we should have a bunch of numbers on the screen. Let's just take that. Indeed. So now we have to add the lines, and it's like they have boxes 9 by 9 or 3 by 3, and then there are lines in between. So maybe the first thing we'll do is just add a frame around these guys so that we can see them. So we want to have a stroke, and let's make that, I don't know, gray 300. Let's try that. So now we should have boxes all over the place. There you go. And then we want to have the big grid. And I guess the simplest way is just to do it like this, where we draw boxes on top. So we have three by 3 boxes. So maybe we'll just say an even grid of these guys. Why not? Generate 0.3. Like this, and then we do a frame of black, I guess, like that. And the size of these guys is just gonna be 96, I think. Let's try that. All right, so far so good. That seems reasonable. And then I guess maybe we just want to center the entire thing and zoom it so that it looks a little bit nicer. So we can do mzoom, which is a nice helper we have in material. And then you give it an element to zoom, and then you say in what area it should zoom it and whether it should keep the aspect ratio of what you zoom. So that means that it's very easy to get it to fill out the screen like this. and then it'll resize and do the right thing no matter how you put it. So that's very nice. I think we should add a bit of border around it just so that it looks nicer. We have this border 8 thing, no 4, that just adds 8 pixels of border around all elements on all sides of what you wrap it with. So that's a very helpful. Now we have a little bit of border. That looks nice. All right. So next in a Sudoku, I guess some of them should be blank. So let's just add support for that and say that it could be 0. And if it's 0, it's going to be blank. Let's do it like that. That's a simple way. And here, if C is 0, then we'll just do the empty box. Otherwise, we'll have this thing. Like that. Okie dokie. So next, we want to be able to click a cell and enter a number in a cell, right? So that seems we should have a cursor, so to say. So let's make a cursor where we have 2 coordinates like this. And then I guess we want to, okay, let's make a function, draw cell that takes an X and Y coordinate, the Sudoku state, and then draws that cell. So it's basically this part in here. I think that's going to be helpful to refactor the code a little bit already here. And then I guess we gotta get the cell number as well, like that. So here we do this. Okay, so we don't have the coordinates. Let's give them the coordinates. Like this. Okay, so that should be the equivalent for now. What did I do wrong? Okay, I gotta initialize my state with the X coordinates. So let's make those -1 at first. Okay, so this should be equivalent to what I had before. So let's just check that. And then I want to make it so that you can update the numbers. So we got to change this to a dynamic so that we can change these numbers. Flow is a functional language, so without marking something special, it's not going to be changeable. Okay, so and in that case, I want to change this thing. Instead of passing it in, I want to have a select on it here. So we're going to select on the board at the Y-X coordinate, and then we get C out like that. So when the numbers change, we'll update the display in here. Then we don't have to give C here. Like that. And we got to initialize it with behaviors now down here. We just do it like that. And that's still the same. So now we want to make it so that you can click and change stuff. So we'll just do mClickable. That's an easy way to wrap something so you can click it. And when we click it, we want to set the cursor to the coordinate where we are. So we'll say next state X is X and next state Y, comma Y. Okay. And maybe we want to highlight if we are selected. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. So what we'll do is that we'll say, okay, so we'll select on 3 different things here. No, yeah, we'll select on 3 different things. The coordinate, or no. Let's think about it. When we select something, we want to change the background color, right? That's what we want to do. And we have that out here in the frame. So, okay, so we could do it like this. We change this to be a group where you have the frame itself, always of a fixed size. That's just a box. And then you have the number on top of that. Okay. And then we don't, if there's nothing, we don't have to draw anything. We'll change it like this instead. Because then we can update the background color independently from the graphics behind. Okay. And then the thing is up here, this box is going to be different depending on if the cursor is there. So we're going to look at the X and Y coordinates. And if it's there the cursor is, we're going to change the background color, right? So we can do it like this. If sx is equals to x and sy equals to y, then we're going to fill this thing with, I guess, yellow, something like that. That works. Otherwise, we'll just fill it with white. We don't really have to fill it with white, but it doesn't hurt to do that. Okay, so like this. So I got some mistake here. State. Did I call it state? I guess I should call it S. Whoops. Okay. So this might work so that I can click and then it change to be yellow. Oh my, it works. Okay, great. So next is we need to be able to enter a digit on the keyboard and then update that cell to that particular value. So that's going to happen here, that we're going to add a key listener. You do it like this, and then you get it takes a key event, as I remember, and then you want to say what keys to this key event should handle. So in this case, I'm going to say, we can do it like this. If the UTF code is between 1 and 9, we want to handle it, or I guess we could use space for clearing it out. Then it's a key we want to handle with this key handler. And then you set up an interactive for this thing. Interactive is how to get inputs from different things. And here we want to say a key, no, it's called TKey, and then you give it a key like that. Now we have a listener to the key, and what we want to do, okay, I have to fix it, isn't it? Let's check what the definition is in here. I forget it. T interactivity. It's called one of these guys. I just send in the key thing I constructed up there. I don't have to wrap it myself. It's like this. All right. Oops. So now I have this thing, and the definition of this TKey is that it gives us a TKey, and the TKey in itself has a behavior with the pressed thing. So every time the keys, if I press a key, this behavior will update with the key event. Okay. So I have to set up a subscription to listen to those guys. And the way to do that is to make a construct. Because I want the lifetime of this subscription to match the UI element. So that's why you do it like this. You wrap all of these guys inside a construct, and then you say make subscribe on the key.pressed. So every time I get a key press, this one is going to be called. So let's just start by printing that. Oops, we can call it key instead of P. Okie dokie. So now the only thing that's going to happen is that if I type a letter that is matching our filter, it will turn up. And the empty key is not there. And now I'm pressing the keyboard. It sends the event as well as when the key up kind of like happens. But that's fine. So we'll just say if the UTF of our key matches this condition, then it's a number, and we should update the current cursor position with this number. And if it's, or we could also add this because that will be 0. Okay. So in this case, C is, okay, we can also write it in a different way. We'll just make a function that says an update and it gets a number, and then we'll update the cell if we have a cell. Okay, now we have a cell, we know it's a cell, and then the state board at the y.x coordinate. We gotta update that. So we next distinct that with the number we just get. Okay, now we have a function that will update. And so let's just do it like this. So here we're gonna say update with is, we convert the string to an integer. And if it's space, we convert it to a 0. Well, we just send 0, that's it. Okay, like this. Now we should be able to click and update the numbers in the Sudoku board. Let's see if it's possible. 2, 3, it's possible. And if I click space, space doesn't work. I guess it's not called space, it's just a space. Let's try that just to validate that's what is going on. Indeed. Okay, so now we have this thing. So I guess the next thing we need to do is to check if the Sudoku is correct and it violates any constraints. So I think the way to do that is maybe to just highlight if you have a problem in red. Okay, let's try to do that. So, so for each cell, there are like 3 things you have to check. You have to check that the number doesn't appear in the same column, in the same row, and within the same box. Okay. So let's try to do that. I guess we could do it up here when we draw a cell. No, let's think about it a little bit, because we want to have, every time we update the board, we want to recalculate it basically. So we could consider to have the entire board be a dynamic behavior and instead of each cell, because it's like a global calculation. That would be one way to do it. Yeah, I think that's probably what I prefer. Or we could just explicitly call it whenever we update the board and just have a different data structure that is also updated along with the board. That might be another way to do it. Okay. Yeah, let's do the second approach. That's fine, because we have one place where we update the board, and that's right here. So we just change this update function to also recalculate if there is a problem. Let's do that. So let's say we update correctness. Let's call it like that. So this one will update the correctness of the Sudoku state. So we'll just have errors. That's going to be it's going to be like this. So if there is a problem, we'll just mark that as true in those cells where there is a problem. Okay. That should work. And then in here, we can check if there is an error in that cell and make it yellow, red if so. So that's going to be the first condition. So, and I guess we have to select 3 on this, guys, because if the errors change, we want to be updated. So here, errors. If errors at y.x, then it's going to be red. Else, it's going to be the other logic. mfill red 500. Let's try like that, and then we could move the red out, the fill outside, right? Okay, doesn't matter. That's fine. And then we gotta populate this errors thing. So for now, we'll just make it with false and all of them, and then we can fix it afterwards, like that. That should be correct. Let's just check this. We gotta define update correctness. So update correctness takes a state and just has a side effect of updating the errors thing. So for now, we'll just ignore it. And then let's just see if it still works. And then we'll try to make everything red. And then we can see if we can, if that works. Now everything should be red. Indeed it is. All right, cool. So this function here, I guess we could, I guess there are 3 checks, right? Check if there is a row violation for each cell, and all right, so we'll just iterate over all cells and then check if there's a problem in each cell. Maybe this can be done in a smarter way, but let's just do it like this. So here, check if there are any columns with the same number, right? And then we also have to check if there are any rows with the same number, and check if there are any other numbers in the same box with the same number. And that's going to be the correctness. So we're going to return true or false in here, and then we're just going to update the errors array with the result of this process. So let's just check. Let's just add a function that does that. Check a cell that returns a bool. All right. And this guy is going to do these things. Okay, so exists. So let's find out what number we have in our cell. That's the number in the current cell. And then let's see if there is an exists where we map, we generate from 0 to 9, and we get a y coordinate, and we got to say if, okay, so we got to call it something else. Let's say y2. If y2 equals y, then there is no problem. But else, if the value at this point is the same as our value, then we have a problem, right? Like that. Then we know if there is a collision in this column, okay? And the same thing for the row. So we'll just change it to be like this. So now we have these two checks. And let's wait with this one. And just check what we have so far. So now we should be able to see red if there is a row or column that has a conflict. Okay, maybe we should just call this update thing initially. So we'll just do that when we have the initial board. So whatever it constructs, we'll get the highlighting out of the box. All right. So I guess we could try to clear it up and see if we have. So the one thing I noticed is that the empty boxes cannot have any conflict. So we got to check if it's 0. If it's 0, then it's fine. So n equals 0 or different from 0, and it exists, right? Okay, so we can just do it like this. If it's 0, then there's no problem. That's maybe more clear. Obviously, this is a logical condition, so yeah, I could use and, but I think the code is a little bit more clear read like this. Okay, so if it's 0, there is no problem. Otherwise, let's see. So now 9 and 9 has a problem here, and clear that out. It didn't update. It still has, it has this one down here as well. And then this changed. So that's correct. But it is confusing when I click, I can't see the yellow one. I want to be able to see where I click, even though it's red. So I'll just swap the order of those two guys up here to make sure that I can see what I'm doing. So I'll just do it like this instead. So that's easier to see. And in this way, I can check that at least.
Or you can make the cursor orange, for example, to be sure there is a cursor and there is an error.
So if there is an error, sure, I could do that. Yeah, why not? We can do that. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's have that as the first condition, that if you have both an error and the cursor, we'll make it orange. Like that. Okie dokie. So, yep, and then it turns yellow automatically when I click. One of the benefits of having functional reactive programming, everything just updates as it should. Okay, so this is pretty nice. Already now, in printable, you can take, if we start with an empty board, you can take any Sudoku in your paper and you can kind of like go ahead and do it. I guess we should have a condition if you solve it, then we can display that it's solved. That's just a simple condition to check if all numbers are filled out and there is no problem, right? That should be sufficient. So we can do that as part of, let's say, win. That's also a condition we have here. And initially that's going to be false. And if it's 1, we'll just say I guess we'll make everything green, right? That seems reasonable. Everything will be green below here. So if, okay, and then we have to select 4. So it's dependent on a lot of stuff here, but that's fine. If win, that's very easy condition. Then we'll just save green. Okay. And then in the update correctness thing down here, we'll check if all fields are all filled. That means for all rows, for all columns, get value s.board y.x is different from 0. So now they're all filled. And in addition, I got to check that there are no errors. So I'll just cheat and use a reference here. And then that's the check. If there is a problem, then there is a problem. Like that. That should be fine. And then we'll say next distinct, whoops, next distinct s.win is that we don't have any errors, no errors, and all are filled. Okay. So that's going to require me to solve a Sudoku to get it to test it. For that reason, I'm just going to say we don't care about errors at first. If everything is filled, then we presume it's going to be fine. Let's just try that first to see if we can get it to be green. We just have to fill out everything and then it'll be green. Oh my, that worked. Great. And if I remove something, we go back to the other state. And I think it's pretty safe to say that that's going to work. Okay, so in some sense, we have a complete Sudoku game now. At least in principle, if we just start out with empty everywhere. So I can just pick any Sudoku from somewhere online and I can solve it. So far, so good. I can probably. All right, so what's next? I noticed there is a bug. When I type something up here, nothing happens. So I must have a bug in my code. Why doesn't the first cell work? What's wrong? I guess when I type in the key here, oh, it can be 0. Both of them can be 0. That's fine. It's not a problem that they are 0. And that's the other way around. It's like this. Okay. So let's just check that at the top. It's I can enter anything here. Indeed. Okay. So obviously, and a Sudoku game comes with some puzzles out of the box. So maybe what we could try to do is, well, there are a couple of things we could do. So when you're solving real Sudokus, you have a better UI than this because you can put in the empty cells, you can kind of like put these dots or marks about what numbers are possible in each cell, right? So in this one, we know that 1 is possible, 8 and 9. So it's like you would put a small 1 and 8 and 9 here. So that's one way we could change this to make it a more useful Sudoku game. Another is obviously to have a bunch of puzzles in there and then allow users to try them out. And the third is that we could generate puzzles. And a fourth is that we could have it solve puzzles that are already there. So what do you think? What should we try to do? I think that maybe I'll do the UI in this one, and then in the next stream I can do the solving and generation of puzzles, because I think the UI thing is interesting in a few ways. So one thing is that I also want to allow you to kind of like drag multiple cells and just clear them out in one go, so I can have multiple selections, so to say. That's I can show you how to do that. Yeah, let's do that. That's a good one. Let's do that one first. So the idea is that right now when I click, it selects the cell, but I want to click with the mouse, hold down the mouse key, and then just move it, and then it should select all of them. And then in that way, I can clear out multiple cells with the same number just by dragging and then clicking, right? Let's try to do that, because that demonstrates a little bit of how to do some more low-level interactivity in material. So we gotta have a, we gotta keep track of whether we are dragging or not. So that's the first thing. We'll add a dynamic behavior to say if we are in a dragging state or not. So when are we in a dragging state? That's if we, so now we have the clickable here, that's gonna be changed because it's not updating this coordinate is gonna happen. Okay, this is a little bit detailed, but let me just show you, explain one thing here. So let's just add the false here. So when I click right now, cursor doesn't move when I click on the mouse. It's only when I release up it comes. It's because if I click and move somewhere else and I release, I don't want to highlight it. That's why mouse down is normally when you release the mouse in the same place, inside the same element. That's the condition for it. If I click outside and release inside, it's not a click, right? But now I want to change the logic. So when I click mouse down, it should immediately turn yellow. And then when I move, I'll paint all of these guys yellow and I release. That doesn't really do anything. So I should change it from being a click to being a mouse down kind of thing. That's what I want to do. So here, just like we had, this is a wrapper that makes it easy to do these things, but I want to change it to be interactive and listen to the mouse events directly. Just like I did with the keyboard, you can do the same thing with the mouse. And then I'm gonna just wrap this function here, this one, because we don't have that directly there. Let's just move it here for now so we don't lose it. Okay, and the interactive I'm looking for is called, we can look it up just so you know how I would do it. Interactivity, T interactivity, and it's called, so we have mouse inside and we have mouse down. So these guys are interesting. Mouse inside will tell us if we are inside the thing, and mouse down will tell us if the mouse button is down or up. Okay, so mouse inside is interesting. Let's use that one. So let's say we can call that hover, and the other one is if we are clicking. Mouse down, down. So let's add these two interactives in here. Are we hovering? And are we down? All right. And just like before, we'll set up a construct to listen to these guys so we can handle them when they occur. And the same thing for the hover, I think. Let's see. I don't know if we need to do something with the hover. Let's just do it with the down thing first. Okay. So this is a common pattern when you do more low-level material stuff, that you'll have an interactive and a construct. Sometimes you'll have them in the opposite order. It doesn't matter if the construct is on top or the interactive is below. It doesn't really matter. All right. So what we want to do is that if you click down, then we start dragging. That's the first thing, right? So now we are dragging. And the other thing is, I guess what we could do is that if we are dragging and hovering, then we want to do, what is it? We got to represent that you can change more, that each cell can be selected. So we got to have a data structure where we can select more than one field. So we'll do select it like this, right? So we'll have another behavior of whether a cell is selected or not. Let's add that. Okay, so and let's add comments here. The numbers on the board, 0 is empty. Whether there is a conflict in this cell, whether this cell is selected. the current. I don't know if we need this one anymore, but let's just keep these guys for now. Is the Sudoku solved? Are we dragging at
Asger,
the moment?
maybe it will be simpler when you don't have an error match as a matrix, but just linear array for rows, linear array for columns, and probably for blocks. Probably it will be easier to maintain maybe.
Sure. We could consider to change that, but for now, I think this is going to be okay. But I just remember one thing: when we do the config, we never checked if there is anyone in the same box. So this we are missing this one. We have to fix this one, right? So here, so this is like a simple conflict. Let's just call it like that, and then. How do we check this guy? We got to figure out what the box is, and that's basically dividing by 3, right? X box, Y box, and then it's exists. I have to generate like this. So this is like the box X coordinate inside, no Y coordinate. So here we gotta say if okay, and we gotta do the modulo, figure out what is our coordinate inside the box. So it's like
isn't it just x2 equals y box x box multiple by 3 plus what you generated just?
it could be, but I think this is also correct. Then there is no problem. Otherwise, we have to. So what your point is that we could change these coordinates instead. So just look at the small box instead of having this in direction. Is that what you meant? I think you're right
No,
about that.
what I suggest is not use modulo, but compare x with multiplied x box plus bx.
Like this. So we range over that little area of y coordinates. So we have the real y coordinates of the box. Is that what you mean? I think at least this will work. So maybe that's not what you said, but I think this is going to be good enough. So now we have real x coordinates, but we're only looking in the real box, and that's fine. Then we can check it like this. And like that. I think that should be correct. I got it in the wrong place. I gotta have exists here as well. Okay, I don't think I have the clicking working. I think I changed that. So let's just. Okay, let's do it like this. If we are dragging already, then there's nothing. But if we're not dragging, that's the same as a click. That should be sufficient to at least be able to click. And let's just check if that other constraint with the box thing works now. So I can do 1, 2. Yeah, now it doesn't work. What did I do wrong? It's because it's not inside as well. I gotta check that we are inside and get value hover. So what happened here is that on the click, all cells kind of like triggered, but only the one where we're hovering inside should handle this thing. So in fact, we only want to handle this this entire event if we are inside the cell where we're hovering. We don't want all of them to handle the click, and only the one that's inside. So when I click, that didn't help. So what's wrong? So what's wrong? I guess we don't clear the dragging if there is no click. So I can only click once now. If not D, okay, I'll do it like this. Yeah, okay. So let's just check that box constraint. Now that works, great. All right, good. Okay, so back to the other thing. We want to have it so that I can click and then drag to select more things. So I guess we gotta add that if the cell is selected, we're gonna highlight it as well. Is selected Y. This is wrong. I can't use get value, then it won't update as we change it. It has to be in the select. So this is just general thing when you do functional reactive programming, you want to set it up correctly and not use you don't want to use get value if you want it to be responsive. Okay, so now when I select something, it's either with the cursor coordinate or by dragging, then it should be fine. Okay, so the next thing is that if I'm hovering, okay, I guess I can do it like this. So if we're hovering and we are dragging, then we want to select this cell, right? I think. So let's try that. S is selected, y.x true. Right now, I don't have a way to clear the selections, but I think this should be correct. Let's just try that. If I click and drag, indeed it works. And when I release the mouse click, it doesn't stop dragging right now, so there is a problem. So what's wrong? I guess it doesn't matter if we are hovering or not when to clear dragging. So if we're not dragging, not down, then we're not dragging no matter what. Like that. That should be the first change. Yep. Now when I release, it stops, and I guess when I click, we should clear all the other ones. When I start dragging, I should clear out all selections. So in this case here, I want to clear out all the selections. Okay, so we gotta have, no, we already have behaviors, so we want to just iterate over them. So we can just generate from 0 to 9 like this. We've seen this loop before. So now we clear out all the selections and we generate an array of nothing inside and then just discard it. That should be okay. Oops, like this. So you know what? I can do smarter because I want to select the current point. Like that. Okay. Indeed, that works. Okay, so the next thing is that when I type something, I want to put that into all the selected areas. So I got to iterate on all of them and put them in everywhere. And I think the X and Y thing doesn't really make any sense anymore, does it? It's not required.
By the way, why do you want this functionality? It's useless in Sudoku, as I can imagine.
No, it's not useless. It's once you have the scribble marks, you really very often want to say all of these guys can be one with the scribble marks thing, right? I think it is useful.
And you got a block conflict or row conflict on column conflict, any conflict with this functionality.
No, but yeah, I know with the way it works right now, there would be a conflict, but it's because we don't have, I didn't add the scribble marks, the small numbers. That's why this function makes sense. So I agree, as without scribble marks, it's limited use. I agree with that. But I'm just gonna implement this so that we can see how to do low-level material stuff, and then later I'll add the scribble marks, and we can see that it kind of like makes sense to have this feature from a UI point of view as well. All right, so here right now we're adding a number, and what we want to do is that we want to update all cells, not just where we are with the cursor. So the way to do that is just to generate. We'll just generate is just a way to iterate over all cells. So in this way, we don't really generate anything, we just ignore what we generate. But if that cell is selected, if get value is selected y.x, then we want to update it with that number. All right, and then after that, we will update correctness. And we have to generate something, but we'll just throw away the result. I think like this. Like that. So what did I do wrong? It's, oh, if it's selected, then I want to update it. That I got it wrong, like this. All right. Like that. Okay. So let's just check that I can update a bunch of cells in one go, like this. Indeed, I can. And they all become orange because they're all selected and wrong. So that's, all of this is perfectly fine. I can clear them out like that. Okay. So I guess we can get rid of the X and Y coordinates because they don't really make sense. Replace them with a different mechanism. So let's just do that. And a typical way to do that is just to change the data structure, and with a strongly typed language, just click compile and fix all the problems. So that works. So we don't have to look at the X and Y coordinates here. They're obsolete, and we'll change this to select 3. And in here, it's sufficient to just use the selected condition. Like that. What did I do wrong somewhere? I misspelled something. Like that. Okay, so now we should have the same program running. And now what I want to do is add the scribble mark thing so that I can demonstrate why this multiple selection kind of thing makes sense. So the way scribble marks work is that you basically have 2 modes. Either you fill in numbers or you're putting in scribbles. I don't know if scribbles is the correct term for it, but let's just call them that. So let's just say we'll call it scribble mode. So I'll add a behavior for scribble mode. Scribble dynamic behavior bool, and then I'm gonna add a checkbox to toggle scribble mode. Okay, so let's add that to the UI here, Sudoku. So we have the board. Let's add it below. Like that. Okay, so now we have a checkbox to toggle whether it's scribble or normal mode. I hope. Indeed we do. So that's pretty nice. And when we're in scribble mode, we don't want to put in big numbers, we want to put in small numbers. So we got to have a representation, and in each cell you can have 9 scribbles. So for each cell we'll have 1 to 9 whether there is that scribble. So basically you can represent it in a number of different ways, but we at least have a representation. We got to have a representation for it. I think scribbles. we'll just do a dynamic behavior. We can do a set of numbers, meaning that we have those guys scribbled in those boxes. And then what we want to do is that in a cell, we want to draw the scribbles. So I guess we can do that below these guys. So select S scribbles at this coordinate, then we have a set of numbers. And then, so basically the normal way is that you put the scribbles like this inside the grid. So I'll just say even grid. So make a mini grid inside the grid. And inside this guy, I'm going to generate each scribble Y coordinate and each scribble X coordinate. And if contains set, it's not 9, it's 3. I'm doing it wrong. So maybe I should do it like this. So I can find, no, I have to do it at 3 by 3, right? This is it. So the number I'm at this point is scribble times 3 plus this guy. That's the number I'm at. So if this contains our number, we're gonna put that small number in that cell. And we gotta change the font size. Okay, we can use TText, which is a low-level form of text, and that has a T character style, so that's pretty simple to use. And that has F text style, and that has character style, and that has font size, I believe, basic character style. There you go, font size. Ultimately, that's how to do it. And I guess we gotta go with a pretty small font size. Let's try this at first. And then it's the same thing as before. We gotta center this guy inside a small box. Like this. And okay, so how big was our cell? 32. 32. If we say 32 divided by 3, that's 10. So 30, so okay, we can do 10, I guess, 10 by 10. M fixed 10 by 10. Okay, like this, I believe. And then I have probably some problems. Okay, so maybe what we should do is just to add some sets at first so we can see that that works here. So we'll just say make set 1 and then a random number. That's gonna be fine. Then at least we can see that something works. Floor random times 9 plus 1. So now we'll have scribbles in some of these fields, and they should place them in small numbers inside those boxes. And indeed it does. Okay, I guess the font size is a little bit too small. We can make it a little bit bigger. So let's try to do that. Our scribbles in here, let's try 8, twice the size, see if that still works. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And I think we know that we have 1 pixel superfluous. So we'll just do 1 pixel down and left, and then do it like that, just by adding a small border. And then it might be correctly aligned with the 32 by 32 grid. Okay, and the ways these scribbles work is that when I now select in scribble mode and I press a number, then it'll put the scribbles in all of those cells. And that's why it makes sense to have the scribble mode, because then you can put in the candidate numbers for all of them. All right, so in our function down here where we do the update, maybe we should make a function for this instead. We gotta say if you're in scribble mode, you're gonna do one thing, And otherwise you're going to do the other thing. Okay, and if you're in Scribble mode and we want to we do space, that means we remove it from the Scribble set. Scribbles y x. No, it's the entire empty set. So if you click space, we remove all scribbles in this guy. That's what happens. Otherwise, we're gonna add, whoops, we're gonna add the scribble to that set. Insert set scribble C, like that.
Maybe toggling will be better, so we include or exclude if it already exists in that set.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good idea. If contain set scribbles .c, then we remove it. Otherwise, we add it. Okay, so let's move this guy outside. Let's exploit that we have a expression-based language. Like that, correct? Okay, so I have some syntax error somewhere. This guy, what's missing? Can anyone see what I'm doing wrong? Yeah, we gotta have an end bracket for the next distinct, like that. Okay, so now we should have Scribble mode, I guess. Let's check it out and see if it works. So if I go here and say Scribble mode 1, it added it to all cells. We still have to check if it's selected. So this check has to be outside, like that. Like that. That should work. Okay, so let's try again. I select all of these guys and click 1, and then I go to Scribble mode, and 1 indeed. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine. Now it works. I guess, I don't know how you, if you put in a number, you want to clear out the scribbles, right? I think that seems reasonable. Or maybe you want to keep them, so if you remove it, you still have the scribbles. So I think we should just do that in the display function, that if you have a real number, you don't display the scribbles, and then where you can always recover the underlying scribbles. That seems reasonable, doesn't it? I think it does.
Or maybe if you have only one number in the set, it's just the exact number you just chosen for the cell.
I think that's wrong. I don't think that's correct to do it like that. But you know, it's not that. But I think we'll just do it like I just said. That if the value in that board cell is, so I guess we gotta move this guy inside here, because if the cell changes, or we can do a select 2. Let's just do that. I think it's when you are doing your scribbles, it's very common that you wanna start with one number, and that's not the real number, right? So if it's 0, then we do this thing. Otherwise, we don't display anything for scribbles. The scribbles are gonna be ignored. Like this. Let's try that and see if that seems correct. So I put in a 2 and I remove it, I get the scribble back. I can switch to Scribble mode 1, 2. Okay, the 1 is wrongly placed. I have, normally 1 is over here. So I have a bug in how we present it, and I guess 9 never appears. If I scribble 9, yeah, it doesn't appear.
Maybe
so off by 1
clicking
error.
each time Scribble checkbox, it's too hard for user, too inconvenient. Maybe Shift key on the keyboard will do the job.
Yeah, to toggle the scribble, sure, I agree. We should have some way to do that. And also maybe if you press and hold shift, so it's not a, it depends if you have a keyboard or not, right? If you'd want to do a mobile app, you don't have a keyboard. So I think both make sense. But let's just figure this out. These coordinates are wrong. So I gotta, because we have an off by 1 error, right? So the scribble set is from 0 to 1. I guess we'll just add 1 here, and then it should work. Is that correct? And then now all the 1s go into 1. Yeah, now indeed it does. So, and if I type 9, now it does work. 9 works, 8 works, all of them work. All right, the scribbles are correct now. That's good. And I can clear out the scribbles like this, that's fine. And then I agree, let's make it so that if I press Shift 2, for instance, then that's changing the scribble, right? That's what you suggested, right? That seems reasonable.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So when Shift is pressed, you get a different key. So I have to change this guy, contains UTF, and then I have to list all of them. And I guess this is different from, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Let's just have a look at key events, see if there is a way we can do this in a smarter way. So you do have the key code and you do have a shift flag. So I think let's just try to do that. Just print the key code and the shift flag. Key code when I press Shift and 1, just to see if that's a way to do it without, because it's going to be different from different languages and keyboards, right? Some have different numbers on the different things. 16, I press Shift and then it prints 16, and I press the other numbers. It doesn't give a good number. Well,
And can you please press numbers with Shift to see what the key code will be?
yeah, that's what I did, and it prints 0, so it doesn't work. This is dependent on the platform. There are so many complicated things with these guys. So maybe
key code could be some kind of universal.
Yeah, but it's not. I tried. It gives 0, so it doesn't work. But what we'll do is that for this guy, we can add a keyboard shortcut at least. Somehow, I guess we can do that. Click checkable style. Button state. Yeah, button state has probably a shortcut. Yeah, shortcut here. There's some shortcut. It's here. Whoops. Yeah, M shortcut this guy. And what's that? It's just a string. Okay. So at minimum, we can give this a shortcut so you can toggle it with space. No, not space, that's already taken. Let's say S. So when you press S, it at least you can quickly change between these two guys. S, yeah. It's a workaround. Maybe I could use Shift. I don't know if that works. We could try that. So you Shift first to toggle it, and then you don't hold Shift down, but just click it once. No, that wouldn't work. Yeah, I would be surprised. Yeah, so, okay. We'll just use S. That's good enough for now. All right, but so let's just clean it up and not have scribbles initially. And then I think it's fair to say we have a one-player Sudoku game where you can take some puzzle from a paper, enter it yourself, and you can solve it, and you can put the scribbles in there. And so this one could be 2, 5, 6, like that. And then at that way, you at least have a way to use this UI for it. Now, one thing I think a lot of Sudoku programs have is that they kind of like highlight the current row and column as well as the box you're in. So I think I'll just add that feature because I think that is a nice feature. So basically the color, the background color, I guess it's just up in the cell thing. We'll just check in one more situation down here. Else if, isn't it here? No, that was, yeah, it is here. Okay, so if selected, so we should check if there is, okay, so the problem is that now we have, to do that, you can have multiple selections. So what is the interpretation? So if all selections are inside a cell, you want to highlight this cell, right? And if all in a selection are in the same row, you want to highlight it, okay? So what we got to do is that we got to check if, whoa. Oh, there is a problem with the zoom. No, it's fine. All right, so here we got to say, we got to check if highlight condition. Let's do it like that. So highlight condition. Let's just call it like that, something like this. And then we're gonna make it a lighter version of yellow in those situations. Okay, so now we have this function that takes a bunch of selected cells no, it's not like this. It's the entire state we got to give it. It's not just this cell. And then it's an X and a Y coordinate. And then we're going to say if we are in that cell, same cell. So the way to do that is to see for all selected. Okay, so so we'll convert, right now we have an array of selected items. We're going to convert that into a set of selected cells, or what? We can just iterate over all of the selected, and if they're highlighted, then we're good. And if all of them are, that's okay. We can do it like this. So we'll say we'll iterate over Y coordinates and X coordinates, and if that cell is selected, then we'll check highlight cell, and then we have X and Y and SX and SY. Okay. Else we shouldn't do it, I guess. And then for all, if all of them are true, then we want to do it, and the same here. Maybe I have to return true in the other case because you don't want to, yeah, I think I have to return true in the other case. Don't I? Let's try this. So now I have an X coordinate, two different X coordinates, and I want to see if they're in the same row on the same box. That's the condition here. So row, column, or box. That's the idea. So if this guy is the same, or this guy is the same, or this guy is the same as this guy, I believe something like this might work. So now all of them are selected. Okay, we have a special case. So what's wrong? Some things are right here, but not all of it. So clearly I have some logical mistake. I'm wondering if this one is true or false. Let's try it. I guess then it never highlights anything. Yeah, that's not correct. Okay, so let's think about it. What is it that's going wrong here? If I have exactly one element selected, then we'll use this condition to determine whether it should highlight it or not. Correct? And that means that, so let's go without the box thing first. So now I select, why does it select all of these guys? Why is it doing this? Anyone know what's going on? Oh, I can't use get value. That's wrong, right? I have to make it FRP. So this is a condition that needs to look over all of them. Okay. So how do we do that? I guess the simplest way is to make it a part of the check thing as well. So just like we had the errors thing, we can update this guy in the same way. So let's just say highlighted. So every time we make a change, we'll update a state whether this cell is highlighted or not. Okay. Like that. And then this condition in here is just whether we are highlighted. Did I call it highlight or highlight? Yeah, just highlight. Okay. Okay. And then this guy should be updated every time we do update. So this function should update the corresponding cell for each cell. So when we do the update correctness in here, we'll also update the highlight. Very much in the same way. So we'll just iterate over all of them and update the highlight. Highlight condition s comma x comma y. Like that. That should be correct, right? So now we need to do select 4. And what's wrong here? I have to, okay, so it's like this. It's the entire thing that updates like that. And then it's highlight y comma x like that. Okay. So it seems something's wrong. Clearly something's wrong. What did I do wrong? So the highlight condition x and y for each cell, and I don't want to look at, so we still have the selected condition thing. God, this is complicated. I have to update this when the selection changes, not only when the cells change. So when the selection changes, we have to call that guy. So one way to do that is probably to, I guess we should have another function that does that, right? Update highlights instead. Update highlights. So it's either when the selection changes or the board changes, we have to do this. So we'll call it in here whenever that changes, but also when the selection changes. And that's this guy, right? So here we'll just say update highlight whenever that's done, and also whenever we select something in, it's up here in this guy. Where is it? It's here. There you go. Once we do this, we update the highlights. Okay. Didn't I call it update highlights? Maybe was that the name? Yeah. So whenever I update the highlights, it should update these guys. Okay, so now that works. And if I select 3, yep. But if they're on the same line, it does work. And okay, so that seems that's correct. And we got to do the cell condition as well. Let's add that as well and see if that works. And then there's a special case when we don't have anything selected. We'll just handle that separately. But here, yeah, when they're all in the cell, we're still, and once we're outside. Now that's correct, right? That's very nice. Let's just fix the case where there's nothing selected. So how do we do that? I guess it's just that if there is no selection, if we can do it like that. It's a little bit like the error case. Oh, we just do it like this. Okay, we can say no selection. Let's just do it for that. For all generate, we'll just do it like this. That's fine. Okay, we can change it to be exists and see if there is anything selected. Exists, if there is anything selected, then we do that. Otherwise, we say selected and this condition, right? Then we need at least one to be selected before we're happy. Well, I guess we don't have to do it inside each cell, but that's gonna work. Indeed, it works. We could move this out. It doesn't have to be inside. It's fine to do it like that, right? Okay, great. Okay, so I think this is a decent first version of the game. Maybe it's a good place to stop. When I click space here, it doesn't clear out the, did I do a mistake here? Space and Scribbles doesn't work. So let's figure that one out. Update 0 and update. If it's selected, it doesn't matter if it's selected. Yeah, it does matter. If we're in Scribble mode and we put 0 in there, we should make the set. So what's wrong? Why doesn't that work? There is a bug. So I put it 1, 2, 3 in here and press space. Now it works. Is it multiple selection? What's going on? Okay. Am I losing my mind? It works. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was doing something wrong. There is no problem. It's fine. Okay. So any questions, any comments? Otherwise, I think that's it for this first version. Now we have a UI where you can do your scribbles and you can solve it, and it'll tell you if you make a mistake, and it'll tell you if you're doing it right. So next thing is to add a solver and a generator for questions, but that's going to be a next slide. So unless you have any questions, I think that's just it for today. And just going to say thank you and see you next time.
I only can
yeah, go ahead.
Add the last question, as the first name of file is misspelled, and otherwise fine. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Great. I'll rename the file and then I'll put it into Git and put it in the video description. So thank you and bye.